Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, we're going to be going through some of the class changes that they did basically overnight in terms of hot fixes and whether or not the all clear can be given, because it's been pretty catastrophic so far this week with 11.0.5 when it comes to gameplay, with tons of different bugs that I will have linked at the end of this video if you want to check out all of them specifically. And I'll just be reviewing my experiences yesterday and what seems to have been cleaned up since the day one. And we're also going to be taking a look at some of the statistics for the classes just to see if there's anything, interesting going on, given that some of the power on some of these specs was really ridiculous. Did that actually affect the ladder at all? Has the integrity of the competition been compromised? So there were some emergency hot fixes yesterday on the 23rd. Some of them were targeting Elemental Shaman. Unfortunately, it's the lightning build of Elemental Shaman, and I think this is mostly because in PvE, when you look at some of the graphs, Elemental Shaman was doing like 30 to 40% more damage than other specializations, and that was with the Stormbringer build specifically. But in PvP, I think that Stormbringer was likely still weaker than the Farseer Lava Burst build, as I tried both of them out. The lightning build, it was fun, but again, having to hard cast, and in so many situations where you get trained, the hard casting just becomes really difficult. And there's lots of times where you can get a Tempest proc and then you proc it again immediately after, and you can't even use the instant lightning bolts. Sometimes there's a lot of like weird pain points with the rotation because of that. That makes it a little bit less enjoyable overall. So I'm not sure how they can really iron out those problems with Lightning Shaman. It just seems like the fact that Tempest is such a slow cast, and so basically what can happen is your Lightning Overloads can proc your Tempest, and if you spend a certain amount of Maelstrom, you can proc a Tempest. So you might get a Tempest proc from a Lightning Bolt, and then you shoot the Tempest, then you shoot your Earthshock to get your Lightning Rod or something like that, and then that procced another Tempest, so you have to shoot another Tempest, and you didn't even get rid of your previous instant Lightning Bolts because it procced another one. That was the main pain point that I'd found for it. I most of the time got like upset, honestly, whenever Tempest would proc, because I'm like, okay, I can't cast this now. I'm just going to get kicked like 30 times. So this is definitely going to feel like a nerf in PvP. And in PvE, I think that this was likely going to have to happen. Now, some other changes that were really strange that came through was that Feral Druid got a buff. And I think this was intended, they said this was intended to be a part of the 11.0.5 patch, but the notes got lost in the mail or something, and they just weren't on the official notes when it came out. I don't know if these changes came through and just weren't posted, or if these changes literally got put into the game yesterday. But Feral Druid was obviously really strong in PvP. We're starting to see some conflicts between PvP and PvE because Feral Druid is really underperforming in PvE. I'm kind of wondering if this was just kind of like the servers are on fire, like we just got to shoot this through, and they just didn't either put on the notes that there's PvP modifiers for this, or just didn't have the time to really seriously consider it, especially when you're considering, I think that MDI is coming up here pretty soon in the more recent present. Also that they're going to be doing a huge swash of changes, I would expect on Friday or something like that, that we'll see that likely come in on Tuesday, and they want more time to collect data, and they're just kind of like rushing through and trying to fix all the bugs and all the issues that are causing things to be like hitting unintended targets. And then maybe this will be looked at, because this is obviously a bit strange from a PvP perspective to see Shred and Rake getting a 20% damage and a 5% damage for Rake. Wild Slashes for Swipe and Thrash is going to be really good for Mythic Plus, but in PvP, not going to be too big of a deal. Ravages cast by Convoke will also trigger killing strikes. I kind of wonder if Convoke Druid of the Claw build in PvP, because I've never tried that as Feral. I just played Feral like 2100, and I was just spamming the AoE bleed build with Wildstalker. But maybe there's some like Convoke cheese possibly in PvP that you may want to give a go with this. And the most important thing is that they fixed Phantom Pain. Okay, I was going to sleep with Phantom Pain from all these Beast Mastery hunters running around with their pets just doing billions of damages. So they definitely have squashed that, but it seems like they squashed it in a way that your character was only affected if you logged out and logged back in. So I think what happened yesterday is some players hadn't logged out yet to get the update for this change. So some people were coming into my stream and saying, hey, that bug's still in the game. And I'm like, I just fought a hunter that didn't have it. And I think it was just because unless somebody manages to keep their character permanently logged into the game, they will eventually log out, log in, and then have this change applied. Or I assume on the server reset, right? Because they'll get kicked out then. So I think that less and less Beast Mastery hunters are going to be having this insane phantom pain damage kind of coming through and ruining basically everything that's going on, at least when it comes to PvP. But I think it was probably also causing tuning issues in PvE. For Enhancement Shaman, they resolved issues causing Fire Nova to be disabled while there are Flame Shock targets around. And for Resto Shaman, they resolved an issue where Ascendance wasn't duplicating healing as Restorative Mists. And I think a lot of Resto Shamans, I think I saw Sidu tweeting about it, was like, okay, maybe we can play Resto Shaman now, because this seemed to be like a really big bug for this specifically. Now, there are other classes, obviously, that are a bit overtuned. So when we look at the graphs here for Drustvar, we'll be able to get like more of the specifics. I think one of the biggest like unexpected things for this patch was Mistweaver. Mistweaver is still only at 5% representation at 1800. A bit curious if we clicked at 2400 and see, like, you know, when I made that video, there was only 10 people. Now there's 11 hunters, and they're all Beastmasters. And what do you know? The only healer above 2400 is Mistweaver. So again, this is kind of like perception, right? So I think for a lot of players that were making tier lists going into this, I made my prediction tier list. I should have made like a wild card tier where it's like, I don't know, this is either going to be amazing or just not good at all. Because Mistweaver I kind of just put in the middle. I didn't really expect a lot from it. I thought it was like, oh, you're getting some Crackling Lightning, but damage, it's not gonna be a big deal. But the Crackling Lightning is doing a truck ton of healing. I've also seen a lot of Resto Druids reporting to me that they're really enjoying playing the Resto Druid. Now that they've fixed the bugs with Resto Shaman, I was gonna jump on and give Resto Shaman a bit of a go. And then Holy Priest are kind of still forgotten. I'm kind of expecting Holy Priest is still likely going to remain towards the bottom trending end, at least as far as the healers. But I think there was significant improvement made to Mistweaver for sure, and then Resto Druid and Resto Shaman to a smaller degree. And then Holy Paladin obviously got all the attention. We saw all the buffs. Everybody was talking about it. And look what happened. It jumped up to 33%. It took the #1 healer position. But I do think the healer changes are improving the lesser healers. This is now like more of a perception thing. I'm sure some of you must have seen some of the clips with the lay on hands, Crackling J Lightning. Everything is just healed to full in 1 millisecond. And then Resto Druid is just feeling overall a bit better with the changes that came through. I got to play a bit of Balanced Druid, and I played a lot of Elemental Shaman. Bit curious to see like what it was the Elemental Shaman like representation as things went up here. So only one Ellie managed to get 2400, even with all of the massive like burst one shots that were coming. Oh no, that was enhancement. Sorry, there were 4 Elemental Shamans that got above 2400. So at the end of the day, I said at the start of the video, I wanted to review this for competitive integrity. They increased inflation, but by the end of this season, players are going to be, I would think, easily 3000 rating or higher. So the fact that these guys got to 2400 like this, and they kind of squashed a lot of it that they used to get to this point, I don't really think it's going to matter. You know, in the grand scheme, it's not going to matter. If, these hunters, if they bug abuse and they got to this rating and they try and queue again, they're probably going to go down in rating. Maybe not, though. BM Hunter is still really strong at the moment, even without the bug. But they're probably likely to go down depending on how much they were depending on it. And their rating is going to get pushed past this point. So, they're not going to get any significant rewards. So I am glad that they squashed and hotfixed things like immediately within the day. I was really worried that they were going to leave it a week and we were just going to be like totally boned as far as that was concerned. But they hotfixed a lot of the major bugs that were coming through. They fixed the interrupt bug that was happening where you get kicked and then Casta would go through. That was definitely fixed. And they fixed the class specific bugs, but you had to relog to get back in. So you might still experience like a lingering player with a bug or something like that, but it's inevitable that it will eventually be removed when they log out and they log back in. So I think we're starting to finally get to more of a normal level. I did notice that the disconnect bug is still in the game. So if you're in just a random battleground blitz, I think blitz is more of the pain point at the moment, honestly, but it can happen in shuffle too, where it just randomly kicks everyone out of the lobby. I don't remember if my character lost 200 rating or not, or if I was just kicked out, but it gives you deserter. And if it gets kicked out again, you get a longer deserter. It's really frustrating. My hope is that the disconnect bug, that seems like to be the next biggest one, gets fixed. If you're worried about your rating, I would highly recommend that you only play like low rated alts or play an off spec or something like that and kind of wait until there's more confirmation that it's been 100% decided. But to me, it seems like the biggest pain point is kind of like Battleground Blitz. They changed the queuing methodology so that it wouldn't stack classes. Oddly enough, yesterday I queued and I got 4 DKs on my team and the other team had 4 hunters. So I don't know if that's working 100%, but they changed the queuing algorithm to try and deter that from happening, to consider balancing specializations per team so that one team wouldn't have 4 rogues and the other team has 0 rogues. But it's increased the queue time. So Battleground Blitz queue time is really long now. and you still don't get a lot of points when you win. So in Solo Shuffle Arena, when you win, you can get like 20 to 70 points. You know, when you're above 1500 rating, I'd say on average. Maybe even more than 70 if your MMR is way higher, right? But the point is you can get like 20 to 100 points for winning in a shuffle if you do really well. But in Battleground Blitz, you get like 10 to 20. So it takes really long to grind rating, and the queue times have increased substantially. So I do have some concerns there with Battleground Blitz specifically, that maybe they should roll back the class roll restriction thing, because I don't even know if it works 100%. Because like I said, I got 4 Death Knights. I'll try and post up like a screenshot from my stream here or something at this point in the video to show you that it did happen, and I'm just making that up. But it still seems like you can likely get that kind of overlap. Another thing I wanted to look at was like spec representation. Now you can see this is a lot healthier. The disparity between these, you know, we're not seeing like a doubling. Death Knights still have like decent representation, even though they're not like superb. Would have still like to see some single target damage. You do see some disparity when you get to 2400, but this is all bugged specs, so I feel like look at like 1800 to 2100 is probably a bit better. You do see a larger gap starting to build as you climb ranks for Feral Druids and Shadow Priests, and I think that was very obvious. The self-healing and sustain on Shadow Priest is just remarkably high at the moment, and it does really good damage on top of that. I'm curious to see if they look at that at all and what they're going to do with it, because I get it, you're Shadow Priest, you can't move, you need to have some element of self-sustainability. I think there's just a healthier way of doing it than a passive that does like basically the equivalent of Beast Mastery Hunter bug damage and healing to you automatically. There's got to be other ways to do it. And then Feral Druid, with those buffs that just came through on top of this, is like, yeah, I don't know how you're going to get away with not getting some type of nerf. Enhancement Shaman seems to be bumping up quite a lot on this patch. I think that the Wind Strike build of Enhance looks really fun. I want to play it, honestly. It looks really, really fun. Would definitely recommend the Stormbringer Enhance over the Stormbringer Ellie for sure. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm honestly surprised to see Arms Warrior holding even at this percent, because it feels not great. It feels, anytime I've seen an Arms Warrior, it has not done spectacular. Demon Hunter, as expected, you didn't really get anything, so it's kind of struggle bus. Frost DK, I think I might have played into 1. It felt kind of decent. It didn't feel terrible, but felt decent. Outlaw Rogue, still kind of low representation. Again, I feel like if you're a Rogue main, it's like a niche thing that you want to be like the pirate brawler that plays more like a warrior, whereas Assassination Subtlety still kind of play like Rogue specifically, and they maintained in a healthy position, even despite the changes that came through. And I think Subtlety honestly might have benefited from the changes that came through. I was really worried about it on my prediction tier list, but I think it probably benefited from it. Assassination is still doing really well. Ret is honestly in a much better spot as well with some of the minor buffs that it got. Didn't expect a lot, but I think that it's actually doing really well now. Beast Mastery benefited a lot. I think Hunter is honestly coming down, at least from my experience. Unless you get like really cheesy crits with Black Arrow, it feels like it's coming down in power overall. Boomkin obviously benefited. It's gone up quite a lot. I think it was down at like 1% before. Arcane, you guys got hit with like a nerf right before the patch came out that I think would have likely pushed you up quite a lot. And that's kind of similar to the Feral Druid changes, where it's like, you could have maybe put a PvP modifier on that to try and push it in the opposite direction. But Frost is falling fast. And I think that's just because every spec of Hunter is insane. Ellie Shaman's insane, Enhance is insane, and Feral is insane. So all the classes that hard counter you are insane. So Mage stonks in general are just falling really fast. Because all of those specializations are in a really powerful spot. Also, I saw Raikou tweeting about Frostfire Bolt like not doing the correct amount of damage or something like that. So it's possible that your damage is bugged. So just to take that into account. But overall, with this review, I think to take home is that this doesn't, let's actually see, does anyone get 2700? No. I don't think that this bug day of play like compromised the ladder so much so that like you shouldn't even consider playing anymore. You know what I mean? Because MMR is going to inflate weekly and everyone's going to pass this rating. There's no way the season ends and 2400 is the top of the ladder. You're not going to have to worry about that too much. You know, obviously I would have liked the patch not to come out in that state, but at the same time it was kind of funny too to react to that, because I've never seen something like that. It was so broken, and I do think that this is pretty on top of it. That was like a day later, and they're obviously, I would think, in some type of panic mode to push like these types of changes through for PvE, and then not at a PvP specific one that's likely going to get, you know, looped up at the end. And again, I don't see this having any impact on this week. Other than just playing against Feral Druid is going to be annoying for a couple days. But the disconnect bug, definitely, I hope that is sorted out. BG Blitz queue times as well get sorted out. Maybe they can also just give more rating in BG Blitz when you win a game, because it's getting 10 points for a win, and then shuffle is like 20 to 100 a win seems like too much of a disparity for those specifically. But that's it for me. I just wanted to give you guys a video, a discussion of what's happened, where are we at now, and where do I kind of expect or see us to go from here. And honestly, given how messed up everything was, you know, they did a pretty good job of cleaning it all up within a day. So I'm giving them credit to that. So hopefully moving forward, we can kind of limit the likelihood of something like this happening again. At the same time, I also think it was kind of funny. So if you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with World of Warcraft, make sure to hit the sub button. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.